Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and this weekend not only do we have the One Piece 2023 World Championship in Japan, but we also have an announcement for a future restriction list that's hitting the card game. So honestly, I'm excited for both, don't get me wrong, but I am very interested to see what this restriction list will look like, if it will affect just, the current meta that's going on in Asia, or if it's going to be like retroactive stuff for us here in North America. So I know that's been kind of a bit of a topic since it was announced earlier this month, and I wanted to do a little bit more OP06 testing and get kind of a clear mindset of what I'm thinking about what's going on in this current meta, as well as get some community involvement and see what you guys were thinking too. So I did have a quick little survey for some just to see what you guys were thinking, and I do appreciate every one of you guys who wrote something in here. I pretty much just said choose 3 cards, up to 3 cards. For this one, I didn't want it to be like too crazy, but just like what are the 3 that people are thinking about. I also had a write in and nothing else option, just in case that there was a card that I missed on my 15 that I added, or if you thought that only 1 card needed to get hit or 2 cards, and I ended up just getting right over 400. So the cards that I chose for this one were OP02 Borsalino, 3-drop Linlin, Thunderbolt, Beige, Sakazuki leader, Hound Blaze, Rebecca 4-drop, Rob Lucci 4-drop, Anel leader, 200 million volts, Onami, Kikonojo, Reject, Gecko Moria 8-drop, and Charlotte Pudding from OP06. So honestly, I feel like these were the varieties, and looking at the write-in options, which we'll go over in a little bit, I felt like I at least hit all the cards that most people were wanting to get hit in the first place, and we kind of gone from there. So I ended up going over like 5 specifically that I felt like were hit the most, and we'll look at the full results in a minute. But you'll see that after the top 5, the vote plummets for quite a bit. So I think it's kind of at least the 5 pretty substantially that this community group voted for. So obviously it's biased towards my own community. So if there's anything that goes for there, this isn't like a whole like subsect of what the entirety community looks like. So because it is a little bit tricky to promote these forums without them being people who are again already in your own community. So that's what we got. We're gonna go over it. We're gonna again look at the top 5. If you guys want to have some mental notes and guess what they are as we go through them, and then at the end we're gonna just go over the results and my own personal opinions to kind of go off of it. But honestly, the top 5 was not too surprising, and they were cards that I've already been talking about for a little bit, and I've seen a lot of people talk about as well. So we're going to jump on through it. So first off, we have number 5 on the votes. We have Hound Blaze, which got 131 votes, or about 30% of people who answered the survey wanted this card gone or hit. I feel like it is a little bit broken in the fact that, cost reduction does a lot of good for this card. Obviously, it's in blue, so unless you are a blue and black leader like Sakazuki or Rebecca, this is just an okay card. But the fact that you can pair it with cost reduction, and the fact that this is like the best removal effect in the game, being able to bottom deck it, there's only like 1 card that gets around it, which is a Nell, and that can still even be hit by it. So I think that by itself is already very strong, and then just the fact that you do get the boost too. So this card, unless you're on defense and you need more counter, is never truly quote unquote dead. The fact that you're able to, like, you can 2 for 1 with this pretty easy, where you can remove something that's active and then also put the plus 3k onto one of your cards and then attack something that's rested, right? So that 2 for 1 potential is really strong for this card, and the removal is just fantastic. So I personally think that maybe 4 is too much for this card. I don't know if like putting it to 1 makes it too much, luck sacky. So maybe like 2 or something. But I do agree, like, it is very, very strong. It's only strong in 1 deck, but it is kind of like, without being restricted to Sakazuki, it's more or less restricted to Sakazuki. Again, Rebecca can use it, but Rebecca's not really in the meta right now. But that may shift as we get more Dressrosa cards in the future. So I don't know. I think I know why people are upset about this card. It does do a lot for what it is. It probably should have just been a plus 2k boost, not a plus 3k to be on curve. But yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous. And I know a lot of people lose a lot of games because of this card specifically, which is, again, a very searchable 2-drop that, even though it doesn't do anything in hand, and Sakazuki can get rid of it and get that cycle inherently with his leader effect. So I understand why this is a number 5. So I don't really have much more to say. You guys already have your own opinions on this card, but not too surprised that it was in the top 5 of cards people want to hit. All right, going into number 4, we do have Beige, which is only 155 votes, or 35%. And I say only because I feel like whenever I talk to someone, they say that Beige is like the card they want hit. It's definitely one of the most run cards of the ones that we're seeing right now. I do think it just strictly wins games at times, even if it's just like a 5 to 10% chance. Why would you not run a card that, one, worst case is just a 2K in your hand, but two, again, has a 10%, 5 to 10% chance of winning a game on the spot? Like, why would you not do that? Why would you not do that? So I think that's fine for it. I think it gets quote unquote worse as we get more ways to heal and more ways to manipulate cards in your life to put it in there easier, which we're already seeing a good buff of those in OP06. So I don't know. I think it's in a pretty rough spot. It's also something that is just like generic in its own thing. Fire Tank Pirates is not really an archetype in itself, and Capone Beige is not searchable in its own way too. So I honestly don't mind if this card gets hit to 1 or 0. I think it just means that yellow has space for other things, and they do have things to fill that space with anyways. But I think it just makes the ground a little bit fairer. So I honestly agree with this. I know some people think that it doesn't need to get hit, and that's fine. But I would feel happier if it got hit, to be honest. I think it's been really obnoxious for a very long time. So maybe not from a sense of like the game, like the competitive sense to get better, but just like customer satisfaction, more of that kind of restriction for it. So there it is there. All right, next up we have 10 drop Linlin with just over 40% of the votes with 191. This card has been probably the most wanted card. At least this is the oldest card on this list. Spoilers, but people since release, people have been wanting this card to get gone. Like since OP03, which we are approaching the year mark on that very rapidly, and it has been consistently like, this is a broken card. This card needs to be fixed, and it's just always on the topic whenever I talk about this card game and restriction list. So it is not a perfect card. It does need to be safe to play it. The fact that you do need to run 4 to see it consistently, but then they're dead in hand does come up very often too. But on the flip side, 2 in a row can just be devastating. It can lose you the game on the spot on the other side. And it kind of like makes it so decks that aren't as fast as it are in trouble, right? If you're trying to play something a little bit more control heavy or something that needs a little bit of setup, Linlin will not let you do that. That is pretty clear, because not only does it use its effect, but it has a 12k body on a 10 cost card, which means it is very, very difficult to remove this card. It's very difficult. The cost is like to make sure that you can't do anything else on the turn, but it also means that this card is very hard to remove. And then again, on a 12k body is just a little absurd. So I don't know. I would not be upset if this left the meta. I know a lot of people play Katakuri. I think there are ways to play Katakuri without this card existing, and I guess we'll have to find out if that's agreed on. But honestly, I would not be upset if this left the game. I think it's been pretty oppressive for a long time. But I'm also the kind of guy who likes to play some of the off-meta decks, especially like decks that let you be more controlling in the end game. And whenever I play against Katakuri, I'm like, there's no way I can win this, because they're just going to drop a Linlin or a second one and I just lose on the spot. So I think that feels a little bit bad. But that's my own personal opinion on that. I know a lot of you guys want it gone as well, but we'll see if that ends up on the list. All right, number 2, we have Gecko Moria, who isn't even released yet. This is being recorded in late February. And it almost has 50% of the votes, with 206 people saying this card needs to be hit in some capacity. So I do think it's one of the best value swings that we have in the game. You get to play a 4 cost and a 2 cost, so not only like it immediately quote unquote draws 2 cards or gets 2 bodies on the board. The fact that it doesn't care about the color of the cards that you play, the fact that it doesn't restrict you from on-play effects, it's pretty absurd how much value that this gets. It's very generic, and on top of it, it's a 9k attack card, which is maybe a little bit too strong. I think it would have been just as strong as an 8K, especially if you compare it to like 8 drop Charlotte Katakuri, which is an 8 drop 8K and has like really good removal, or like Yamato, which is a 9 drop 9K, and people think that card's a little bit too strong. Well, we have Gecko Moria for 8, which lets you do some extra stuff with it. So I think this card is honestly just overtuned for being as generic as it is. I don't know if they're going to be doing any kind of erratas, but I think if this was restricted to only Thriller Bark leaders, that would be a quick and easy change for it personally. But I do think that this is a card that gets a lot of value. Sakazuki obviously is getting a lot of help from this as well. And I don't know what they're going to do with this guy. It's very tough because it is kind of like the boss monster for a new archetype that's not even out yet, but I know that people want it kind of gone too. So I don't know. It's a tough choice. It is definitely just a card that they might have needed to redo before printing, because I think this was just immediately shown just a little bit too powerful for where the game was at the time. But there it is. All right, and our last one is Rebecca with over 50% of the votes, about 226. It is the most asked card, at least for our little survey, that people wanted gone. So I completely understand the reason why that would want to be. It has no cost or restriction on effect. It pairs really well with Moria since it's a 4 cost, so you can use the effect to play it, which means you get to play a blocker and draw a card off playing an 8 drop 9K body, which is pretty absurd. And it just gets kind of better with more targets. The fact that it is a blocker means that unless you're playing against red, the power of this card really does not matter. I will say that a lot of cards in this game right now going into OP06 does, do interact with 4 costs very easily, and so there's more of those kind of restrictions going on, and that power creep where like 5 costs is now like the tricky card to like cost level to get rid of. But so Rebecca gets hit more a little bit by that, but even so, like it's just too open ended. Again, the fact that it works with Moria, the fact that both of these can be in the same deck moving forward is pretty strong. For some decks, I think it helps out Sakazuki more than it does help Moria, but it's still a good card for both. And it's honestly like part of the reason that Sakazuki's been doing really, really well in at least OP05 is you've seen the 8 Dawn combo, right? Play Rebecca, you get Hina, play Hina, and then you Rob Lucci, bam, right? Or if you have the Hina in hand and you don't have the Rob Lucci, you can pick up the Rob Lucci from trash and then play the Hina. It's just so flexible in what you're able to do that it's really tricky to find a better way to interact with this card, or find a way to like get it with a little bit less value. So I don't know. I'm not surprised that this is the top of the list here, and if you guys are, let me know if that's surprising or not. But there it is. Here are the full results. So you can see that after Hound Blaze, it did drop off by almost 50% of the votes, from 131 to 72, with the next one being 200 million volts, which I think makes sense. I think that's like the 6th. That would be in the top 10 for me, at least, if not close to top 5. I know a lot of people have been complaining about that card in general. I also will say that about 75 people, at least in the last column, did say nothing else. So 75 people felt like 2 or less cards needed to get hit, with 9 people just put nothing banned on all 3 for that one. So like a 2% amount of people wanted like no additional bans for this format. So other than that, I know Rob Lucci gets mentioned every once in a while, so it was about 50 people. The next card that hasn't been released is Onami, which I honestly still think that card's pretty busted, and is kind of a little bit less from there on out. So there were a couple notable write-ins. Some people wrote in cards that were already on the list, which is pretty funny. But the ones that caught my eye were Hina and Great Eruption. Both these cards kind of do the same thing, where they just get a good amount of value by also giving the minus cost to. These cards have been out for about a year now in the Navy star deck. And I think the reason that they're popular now, obviously, is that we do have some really good and flexible removal cards. Most of the removal that was in the game when these cards came out for black made you discard an additional card, which meant that you had to like go -2 if you had to do like an additional cost reduction to get rid of something. So, for example, if you had to Hina and then you had to use like a Sakazuki 6 drop, you had to use the Hina effect, you had to use the Sakazuki effect, and you had to discard a card, which is 3 less cards that are in your hand, which is a little bit tricky and scary in this game. So Great Eruption, kind of same thing, where it was good and people ran it occasionally, but I just never found like a removal card to pair up with it very well. until we got into Sakazuki, where Rob Lucci was running rampant, and now we have a couple other cards like Houndblaze and Hina are best friends, and Houndblaze and Great Eruption are great friends because you spent 3 Dawn and you only like went -1 to Houndblaze a 4 cost or a 5 cost with the Sakazuki leader effect, and then you're just kind of off to the races. So I think that combo has been very strong. You guys have already been hit by it several times at this point, and it's understood why it's really in a good spot. So I think it's difficult. I think these cards are just good because of the cards that it interacts with are really, really good. But we'll see if that's true in the next little bit too. So, anyways, my final opinions. I know you guys will flame me in the comments for these, but here's what I'm thinking about. And you'll have to trust me that this is pretty much where I was thinking before I saw the results. The results of the survey kind of cemented it for me, not the other way around. But I think I'd be pretty okay with getting a ban or limit for 10-drop or Beige. To be honest, I think 10-drop just makes it so some decks don't exist in the format, which feels pretty bad, and it just kind of does too much. Even though this is restricted to a Big Mom Pirates type, I do think it's a little oppressive. And it also might be a thing where I believe we're getting a yellow-purple Big Mom Pirate in the future, which means that if you're able to ramp into 10-drop Linlin, this would be the best card in the entire game to ramp into pretty easily. So I think that's something that's a little bit terrifying to see in the future, and so that might be why they might want to hit the card too, is because it's just too good if you ramp into it, kind of thing. Beige, I've already kind of talked about. I know it's not even like winning all the time. It's just the fact that this card's really obnoxious. I really wouldn't mind this getting hit in its own way. Most decks can't interact with this unless they have a card with Rush. They really can't play around it. They just have to hope that you don't have it, which just feels bad in a card game like this. So that's my opinion. If it stays around, I'll be fine. But I do think I think a lot of people would be happy if this was just gone from the game or restricted in the game. So there it is. And then errata restrict. These ones I feel like are better served just being restricted to their respective archetypes. We'll see if that's true or not. I know Gecko Moria 8-drop. It's good in Sakazuki and Gecko Moria as well. So if it restricts itself to Gecko Moria, it might mean that only Sakazuki gets worse, but Gecko Moria is still a really big powerhouse in this meta. So I don't know if that's the way to do it, but I do think that something needs to happen for Gecko. I think it is too powerful for what it is. It just gets so much value for you. And then Rebecca as well. Just make it Dressrosa. I think Dressrosa is going to be around for a bit. We have a new leader coming out in EBO1 that can take advantage of it too. And I think that it's just shown that it's just too flexible as it is, that being able to limit it to a Dressrosa leader would be very, very strong. Even though that would mean all the Dressrosa leaders would have to have at least half black if they need to if they want to be able to play this card, which might be a little bit tough for the future. But honestly, these are the 4. You'll see that they're the 4 outside of Houndblaze. I don't know. Houndblaze is just okay. I know it's really obnoxious. It gets worse if Sakazuki's not around, obviously, but and I think if by hitting Gecko Moria, Sakazuki still needs some tools to survive in OP06. But we'll see if that's true or not. But there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have your own opinions on what you want hit for the restriction list moving forward. And again, we don't even know if it affects us in OP06 or it's going to be something in OP07 in Japan, and we'll get it back when we get to OP07 too. So, but that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys are thinking, and I'll catch you all next time.